How's it going everyone? It's PurXion here. I'm gonna bring you a nice and simple but detailed glow block design guide, especially if you are a beginner or anyone looking to see the process behind one. Now, the way I create this block design comes from a lot of creator experience. You're gonna have designs you don't like at first, and that is perfectly fine, as creating is a journey after all. Anyways, let's not waste any more time and dive right into it. When I open the editor, I start by setting a sort of blank semi-dark canvas with the ground layers black. Now, this is optional, but it's helped me to visualize what I want to create easier. I usually set the color channel 1 to black. I only do this as most of the regular blocks have color channel 1 by default, and thus, in my opinion, black looks much better on them. So now that we have everything set up, we can start creating these structures. Starting with a smaller one is good just to get some practice without overwhelming your mind right off the bat. Just imagine connecting simple lines, squares and rectangles in a neat way. Also, you don't even need to make one big structure. Having two small structures connected still makes the overall design much more appealing. The second one does not have to be complicated at all. One simple structure, such as a rectangle, will suffice. This part is unnecessary, but I decided to include two extra side structures just for some extra enhancements. And now would you look at that? Already this is shaping up to be a solid foundation. A strong foundation creates a strong design, which makes creating the rest of the block much easier. One thing I should call out: the color channels, layers, groups and orders you use are dependent on you as the creator. You could use similar color and layer assignment as I do, but this is only a guide to this glow design in particular. Now that I clear that up, let's continue. Now, for the color, there's no need to think hard and stress about this. We simply pick one color and roll with it. We're going to be mostly working with brightness values and a little bit of hue and saturation. Since I chose a green background, I thought, let's make a nice green block, so set it to green. Because glow designs work very well with a darker base, having the structure darker, let's say about halfway in brightness, is a very solid approach. And it's also why I set the background to dark. This can be a tricky place to start, but don't worry, this process does not need to be complicated. One way to add some detail is simply having inner borders of your structures. Let's head into a new layer for better organization and use a thicker set of structure outline objects. You can set it to a Z order just behind the main one, same color. Here, we'll make the brightness just dark enough to be noticeable. You can play around with it to your liking. Now, let's think of adding another border layer, completely black this time, with a thicker outline than the previous, the same steps applied. And would you look at that, this is already a very solid ground for us to work well with. You can choose whatever main base you like with whatever details. For this guide, I'm going to use a simple solid color square. Now you can add a 1x1 square object over this, but I'm going to go a bit further and use the half squares to trace around the inside of our structure. I made the color dark enough just to be visible, but still really dark, which again works really well for glow and other details without high contrast. We're going to take it another step and now add a completely black inside. You may have noticed the way that we're designing this whole thing is working from bright to darker and repeat. The player typically focuses on the surface of the design much more than the inside, so we can apply that to almost a lot of things, including details, which we will talk about soon enough. This is a perfect time to add the glow on top of the main structure. Why I start adding glow here is also to help me determine the rest of the design, especially if we do get stuck with details to add later on, so you can just default to glow on top of structures should you get really stuck. The way I do glow is simple: adding a bright line as our highlight foundation and having glow gradient layers stacked gently on one another. For this line, we're going to have it set to a layer above the main layer of the structure and have it absolutely bright. This is optional too, but just adding a touch of extra hue will add that extra spark of color variation to the design. To make things even more interesting, I went ahead to add an extra bit of detail such as a line corner piece, having it offset just a few pixels, and it just adds some extra design to it overall. After that, we'll finally add the glow itself. I'm going to set it to a Z layer above the structure. In our case, we're going to go for T2. Then what we can do is use the copy color tool to copy our structure base color, set it to blending and have the darkness about halfway. On its own, that's not enough, so we're going to add another smaller gradient object and set it to T2 as well, just under that main glow. The general idea is not to make the glow overpowering, unless of course that's what you want. The glow really should enhance the details that you're going to put in later on. I did not add any brightness changes to the glow to avoid unnecessary confusion, since our brightness changes are already set in the color page. This is also good for a more organized block. So, if you want the glow to be brighter without changing the actual design or having to manually select each glow piece, you can easily go to the color page and change the HSV values. Now we can just connect the glow inside to their respective object sizes. Already this is looking fantastic, clean and simple. Now that we have the glow established, details feel a lot easier. Plus we can see what details we like and whether or not it complements this glow, just like vice versa. What you can do is think of the structure shape and just building from there. Like another inside mini structure, if you will. Let the details follow the general shape of your lines. This can be like a main detail, not overpowering but just enough to be noticeable. Your detail choice is completely up to you, don't overcomplicate it, do what you believe is right for your design. And like that, we have a nice clean interior. Following on from this, we can get into the core of the design, and that is going to be a focal point. This is basically just the part of the design that attracts the most attention. It can be anything you want, absolutely anything. In this design in particular, I'm going to make a glowing focal point. The way I've done this is by just adding a blending object, setting it to a layer above everything and just playing around with brightness values. Remember the whole bright to dark thing I mentioned? We're going to apply that to this detail as well and just work our way inwards. Here I copy and paste it, extend it and brighten it up a little bit, and this time I decide to play with some saturation values. I did not want it completely white, but just bright enough. From there, because we have a bright focal point, we can enhance it by adding some atmospheric glow. Again, play around the brightness values to your liking. And after that, we can apply it to other parts of the design sparingly and wisely. I went ahead to add an extra detail just to fill in the empty spots more. Because we have this bright focal point, there's no need to add an extremely bright detail. It's going to make things clash in my opinion. To make it more easy on myself, I used a darker version of a similar block which still follows the shape of the overall structure. This is going to be a little more advanced, but I wanted to make that second structure pop out just a little more to make things interesting. So all I did was copy the colors and values of the main design and set them to entirely new respective color channels. Now we can't forget about the side structures that we put in earlier, so let's edit those in. I wanted to go for a see-through design that just complements the main structure in a subtle way. I don't want it to be a huge focus, so I made it all blend in, working with a sort of brighter outline, but still dark enough and making the inner bits even darker. And don't forget, your choice of design and color values are all up to you. Last but not least, we have the spike design. We're going to make a traditional glow design spike to help complement the structure. I will show an easy way to make a nice gradient glow for the spike. We'll use these corner glow pieces, set them around just like that and position them just above the spike on the T2 layer. From there, we'll add another and make it super bright and shiny, which also acts as a highlight. This is also good for level design in general, as it makes the player much more aware of the spike. Next, we'll add a smaller version of the spike and set it to the color of the secondary structure and have it bright. The brightness differences also make up for the design as well. After that, we're going to add some atmospheric glow to help add to these spikes. You don't need to think too much about the spike details, just let the glow and brightness carry. Our design is basically complete at this point. To make it pop out a little more, we're going to add some final pieces of atmospheric glow. To do this, all we need to do is add some big pieces of glow gradient, set them to T2 and have them dark enough to be visible. To do this, all we need to do is add some big pieces of glow gradient, set them to T2 and have them dark enough to be visible. We're going to assign them mostly near the top of the structure. And with that, we have a finished glow design. Pretty solid, neat and clean, just detailed enough for beginners to follow along. Now of course this is a guide, not a tutorial or a crutch. I wanted to make this just to help you see how glow designs are made, so everything else is entirely up to you as the creator. I hope you gained some insight from this guide. Thank you so much for watching the video and I will see you in the next one. Peace.